Introduce Mrs. Eleanor Hughes, an 80-year-old woman confined to a wheelchair. She lives alone, her children too busy or living far away. It's her birthday. Her small apartment is quiet except for the ticking of the clock. She whispers to herself about memories from her youth, her late husband, family gatherings, and lost friends. She's sad but resigned. She didn't expect anyone to celebrate with her. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. The only sounds were the faint ticking of a wall clock and the distant hum of traffic outside. Sunlight filtered through the thin curtains, dust particles dancing lazily in the beams. Mrs. Eleanor Hughes, 80 years old, sat upright in her wheelchair, staring at the small calendar pinned to the wall. Today was her birthday. Her hands, frail and lined with decades of work, rested in her lap. She had celebrated 80 years of life, yet the apartment felt emptier than ever. The table in front of her was bare, except for a small envelope she hadn't opened. Inside was a card from a distant nephew, a brief, perfunctory message wishing her well. No flowers, no calls from friends, no warm embrace. Just silence. Eleanor sighed, a faint, almost imperceptible sound, and traced a finger along the edge of the card. Memories flickered in her mind. Birthday parties long ago, children laughing, her late husband's laughter echoing through rooms filled with family and warmth. Now those echoes were gone, leaving only the hollow sound of emptiness. She leaned back in her wheelchair, letting the sunlight fall across her face. "Another year alone," she whispered softly. Her voice cracked slightly. "I suppose that's life." Her apartment was modest but tidy. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with novels she had read countless times. A few framed photos showed a younger Eleanor with family members long gone or far away. A small vase sat on the windowsill, holding a single, fading rose, a remnant of a bouquet she had received years ago. Even that was starting to wilt. As the morning wore on, Eleanor tried to keep herself busy, arranging her books and straightening old photographs. But the silence was relentless. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant siren reminded her that the world outside moved on without her. By midday, she felt the weight of loneliness pressing down, heavier than any physical pain her aging body could produce. Her wheelchair sat by the window, and she watched people passing on the street below. Families, couples, children laughing and playing. Their joy was a sharp contrast to the stillness of her apartment, and a pang of longing settled deep in her chest. "I remember when birthdays were full of noise," she murmured, her eyes misting. "Candles, cake, laughter, everyone here." Her hands rested on the armrests of the wheelchair. She didn't cry, at least not yet. Instead, she closed her eyes, letting the memories wash over her, bittersweet and tender. She had lived a long life, yes, but the solitude of today made even 80 years feel like too long a stretch without connection. Outside, the wind stirred the leaves in the nearby park, carrying with it the faint scent of autumn. Eleanor turned her head toward the window, watching children playing, parents pushing strollers, and people walking dogs. Her eyes lingered on a young boy laughing as he chased a small puppy down the sidewalk. She smiled faintly at the sight, a glimmer of something she hadn't felt in years: hope. Little did Eleanor know, today was not destined to end in quiet solitude. Across the street, a single dad named Ethan, with his young son Liam, was walking toward the park. Life had been difficult for them too: long hours, meager pay, and a constant struggle to make ends meet. But something in Ethan's heart saw the elderly woman sitting alone, her wheelchair positioned near the sidewalk, her gaze distant and melancholy. As he walked past, Liam tugged on his sleeve. "Dad, can we go say hi?" Ethan hesitated for a moment. He wasn't sure if he should intrude. Some people liked their privacy. But something about her, the quiet dignity, the loneliness in her eyes, moved him. He nodded, smiling softly. "Sure, buddy. Let's go." And with that, the quiet solitude of Eleanor's 80th birthday was about to be broken by an unexpected act of kindness, one that would change all their lives forever. Introduce Ethan, a struggling single dad, taking his son Liam to the park. They notice Mrs. Hughes sitting outside on a sunny bench, looking sad and isolated. Ethan approaches her, smiling gently, and asks, "Can we join you?" She hesitates, but eventually nods. They share snacks, stories, and laughter. Liam brings color to her day with his innocence. Mrs. Hughes is touched. She hasn't felt such companionship in years. The crisp autumn air carried the laughter of children playing in a neighborhood park. Leaves rustled in shades of amber and gold, swirling across the paved paths as if dancing to the rhythm of life outside Eleanor's quiet apartment. Ethan held Liam's hand tightly as they approached the park bench near the edge of the sidewalk. Liam, full of youthful energy, skipped ahead, pointing at the playground equipment with wide-eyed excitement. "Dad, look. That slide is huge," he exclaimed, tugging on Ethan's sleeve. Ethan smiled, though his mind was partly elsewhere. His eyes had caught a glimpse of an elderly woman sitting alone near the corner of the park. Her wheelchair was positioned under the shade of a tall oak tree, and she seemed completely absorbed in her thoughts, staring down at the worn pavement as if it could tell her story. "Hey, buddy," Ethan whispered softly, kneeling beside Liam. "See that lady over there?" Liam followed his gaze. "Yet she's all alone." Ethan nodded. "Sometimes people need a little company, Liam. You want to go say hi?" Liam's eyes lit up. "Can we, Dad? Please?" Ethan took a deep breath, adjusting the strap of his worn backpack. "All right, let's go." They approached Eleanor slowly, Ethan offering a gentle smile. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said kindly. Can we join you?" Eleanor's eyes flicked up in surprise. She wasn't expecting anyone to speak to her, let alone offer companionship. Her first instinct was to refuse, to maintain the solitary routine she had grown accustomed to over the years. But something in Ethan's warm gaze and Liam's eager, innocent smile made her hesitate. You don't mind?" Eleanor asked, her voice soft and wavering. "Of course not," Ethan replied. "We'd be honored to sit with you." With a gentle nod, Eleanor allowed them to settle beside her. Liam climbed onto the grass, sitting cross-legged in front of her, while Ethan positioned himself beside her wheelchair. "Hi, I'm Liam," the little boy said, holding out a hand. Eleanor chuckled softly. "Hello, Liam. I'm Eleanor." Ethan smiled, resting a reassuring hand on the arm of her wheelchair. "I'm Ethan. We just thought, well, birthdays are better with company." Eleanor's lips trembled into a small smile, the first genuine one she had offered that morning. "It's my birthday today," she admitted quietly. Liam's eyes widened. "Really? Happy birthday." Ethan reached into his backpack and pulled out a small packet of homemade cookies he had brought for a snack. "We brought a few treats," he said. "If you'd like, we can share them with you." Eleanor hesitated, touched by the gesture. "That's very kind of you, thank you." As they shared the cookies, conversation began to flow naturally. Eleanor spoke of her younger days, her love for gardening, and her late husband, whose memories still lingered like a shadow in the room. Liam asked questions with wide-eyed curiosity, making Eleanor laugh at his simple, earnest perspective on life. Ethan listened attentively, offering small stories of his own, of struggles, joys, and lessons learned while raising Liam alone. He didn't speak of money or hardship in a way that sought sympathy. He simply shared life, and that was enough. By mid-afternoon, Eleanor's eyes were brighter, and her voice carried warmth that hadn't touched the corners of her apartment in years. The three of them laughed over small jokes, shared memories, and even sang "Happy Birthday" in a slightly off-key but heartfelt chorus, courtesy of Liam's boundless enthusiasm. "You've made this a very special birthday," Eleanor whispered to Ethan as they sat together. "I haven't felt this alive in a long time." Ethan smiled, his heart heavy with humility. "We're glad to be here. Today is your day, Mrs. Eleanor. You deserve company and joy." A faint breeze rustled the autumn leaves, and in that simple moment, a single dad, a little boy, and an elderly woman, the weight of loneliness lifted slightly. Eleanor felt a warmth she hadn't realized she was missing. For the first time in decades, she was reminded that life still held small miracles, moments of kindness that could turn a solitary birthday into one she would never forget. As the sun began its slow descent, Ethan glanced toward the street. A black luxury car passed by, its polished surface glinting in the sunlight, but he didn't think much of it. None of them could have known that this simple, heartfelt encounter would be the beginning of a bond that would change all their lives forever. Mrs. Hughes shares stories of her past, her youth, her late husband, and life lessons. Ethan listens intently, recognizing the wisdom and pain in her words. Liam asks questions, making her smile and laugh. Her eyes light up like they haven't in decades. They surprise her with a small birthday cake Liam made at home. She is overwhelmed with gratitude and joy. The soft golden light of late afternoon bathed the park in a warm glow, casting long shadows across the paths where leaves had begun to settle like a patchwork quilt. Eleanor leaned back slightly in her wheelchair, her hands resting on the armrests, and watched Liam chase a falling leaf with sheer delight. Ethan sat beside her, quietly smiling at the small moments that seemed to make all the difference. "I used to come to this park with my husband," Eleanor began softly, her voice carrying a gentle tremor. "We'd bring a picnic, play music, and just be together. On my birthdays, he always surprised me with a little cake. Candles, singing, laughter everywhere." Ethan listened intently, nodding. "Sounds like he really loved you." Eleanor smiled faintly, eyes misting.
"He did.
"And I loved him. But things change. People leave or we leave them. Sometimes life just moves on without you noticing." Liam, sitting cross-legged on the grass, tilted his head. "Did it make you sad?" Eleanor chuckled softly, touched by his innocence. "Yes, sweet boy.
It did.
Some days it still does. But seeing you two here today, it reminds me that joy can still find its way." Ethan leaned forward slightly. "That's the truth. Sometimes we get so caught up in our own struggles that we forget life has little gifts for us, people who care, laughter, and small moments that mean more than anything else." Liam reached over and held Eleanor's hand for a moment. "You're lucky we came, right?" Eleanor laughed, a soft, genuine sound that lifted her spirits. "I think I am. Very lucky indeed." Ethan reached into his backpack again and pulled out a small, slightly squished cake he had made at home that morning. "We thought a little celebration might be nice," he said. "It's not much, but it's from the heart." Eleanor's eyes widened in surprise and gratitude. "Oh my, you didn't have to. We wanted to," Liam insisted, grinning from ear to ear. "It's your birthday. You should have cake." Together, they sang a slightly off-key but heartfelt version of Happy Birthday. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears, and for the first time that day, she allowed herself to fully feel the happiness of being acknowledged and celebrated. She blew out the tiny candles on the cake, laughing through tears as Liam clapped excitedly and Ethan offered a warm smile of encouragement. As the cake was shared, Eleanor began to recount more stories, tales of childhood adventures, dances she had attended with her husband, and trips she had taken that were now just memories. Ethan and Liam listened with rapt attention. Liam asked questions that brought out laughter and gentle chuckles, while Ethan offered small insights and shared moments from his own life, drawing parallels and making Eleanor feel less alone. "You know," Eleanor said quietly, brushing a tear from her cheek, "I never thought someone would just care enough to sit with me, to talk, to laugh, to celebrate. You've given me more than you know today." Ethan reached over and squeezed her hand gently. "It wasn't hard. You deserved company. Everyone deserves to feel remembered on their birthday, Mrs. Eleanor." For a moment, they sat in silence, watching the world go by. Children playing, dogs chasing balls, leaves swirling in the wind. The three of them, strangers just hours ago, now shared a bond that felt timeless. And in that quiet, simple connection, Eleanor realized something profound. It wasn't wealth, family, or possessions that made life meaningful. It was kindness, attention, and the courage of ordinary people to reach out when someone was alone. As the sun began to dip lower, casting a soft amber glow across the park, Eleanor felt a warmth she hadn't felt in decades. Today, A small act of courage and kindness had transformed what could have been a lonely, forgotten birthday into a memory she would cherish for the rest of her life. And she knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning of a connection that would grow stronger, touching not just her heart, but the lives of Ethan and Liam in ways she couldn't yet imagine. Unbeknownst to Ethan, Mrs. Hughes is the retired owner of a small but wealthy business empire. She feels moved by their genuine kindness, not pity, not charity, but heartfelt connection. She secretly begins arranging ways to help Ethan and Liam, realizing they could use support. The three spend more afternoons together. A true bond forms between them. The following days felt brighter for Eleanor. For the first time in years, she looked forward to afternoons rather than dreading the quiet hours alone. Ethan and Liam visited regularly, and the trio's bond deepened with every shared story, game, and laugh. One chilly afternoon, Eleanor wheeled herself closer to the park bench, her scarf wrapped snugly around her shoulders. Liam ran ahead, carrying a small bouquet of wildflowers he had picked from the nearby sidewalk. "Look, Mrs. Eleanor. These are for you," he exclaimed, proudly holding out the flowers. Eleanor's eyes softened, tears welling up as she accepted the simple gift. "Thank you, Liam. These are beautiful. You are so thoughtful." Ethan smiled quietly beside her, watching the interaction with warmth in his chest. "He's got a good heart," he said softly. Eleanor nodded, her gaze distant for a moment. "You both have no idea how much your company has meant to me. You see me, truly see me. That's something I haven't felt in a long time." "What do you mean?" Ethan asked, curious. Eleanor hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I suppose it's time you know. I wasn't always just an old lady alone in her apartment. I ran a small but successful business for decades. Now I'm retired, but well, most people only see the chair and the gray hair. They don't see the woman I was or the life I've lived." Ethan blinked, impressed but cautious. "Wow, that's incredible, Mrs. Eleanor." She smiled faintly. "I just want to say thank you, truly. You didn't come to me because of my past, or what I have, or what I could give you. You came simply out of kindness. And that is priceless." Ethan's chest tightened. "We didn't do anything special. We just cared." "Exactly," Eleanor said, her voice soft but firm. "And because of that, I want to help you. Not out of obligation, but because I can. You're a hardworking father raising a good boy, and I've seen how hard life can be. I'd like to offer a little support, enough to make life easier, to give Liam and you opportunities you've earned through your character, not luck." Ethan shook his head, astonished. "Mrs. Eleanor, I can't just accept that. We did this because it felt right, not for anything else." "Then let me say it this way," Eleanor replied gently, her eyes twinkling. "You've given me the greatest gift, laughter, joy, and a reminder that human kindness still exists. I simply want to return that gift in whatever way I can." Over the next few weeks, Eleanor quietly arranged for Ethan to have a small stipend, help with bills, and access to better opportunities for work. She didn't make a show of it. She wanted it to feel natural, as if life itself had simply shifted in their favor. The trio continued to meet at the park, but now there was a new lightness in their time together. Liam's laughter rang freely as Eleanor shared stories of her youth and adventures, while Ethan found solace in knowing that kindness could ripple outward, creating real, tangible change. One day, as they watched the sunset over the park, Eleanor smiled at them both. "You've changed my life more than you know, and I hope I can change yours too, in ways that matter." Liam's small hand found Eleanor's. "You already have, Mrs. Eleanor. You already have." Ethan looked at her, gratitude and awe in his eyes. "You've shown me that even in the hardest times, we can find people who lift us up. And that's more valuable than anything else." Eleanor's eyes glistened in the golden light. "And it all started with a simple question. Can we join you?" The three of them laughed softly, the sound carrying across the park, a melody of connection, compassion, and newfound family. In that moment, it was clear that the boundaries of age, circumstance, and loneliness had melted away, replaced by trust, warmth, and the kind of bond that could transform lives forever. Mrs. Hughes surprises Ethan with a small gift, a stipend or support for his family. Ethan is grateful but insists he acted out of kindness, not for reward. The story ends with a heartwarming scene, Liam, Ethan, and Mrs. Hughes laughing together, celebrating life, and showing that even a single act of kindness can create a family-like connection. The final note emphasizes the power of empathy, compassion, and human connection across generations. Weeks turned into months, and Eleanor's life had transformed in ways she had not imagined possible. The gray loneliness that had once filled her days was replaced by warmth, laughter, and the comforting presence of two new companions who had become like family. Ethan's life had changed too. The small stipend Eleanor arranged allowed him to take fewer shifts, giving him time to focus on Liam's growth and happiness. He no longer felt the constant pressure of barely making ends meet. Instead, he found balance, a rhythm where work, family, and the joy of helping others could coexist. Every afternoon, the trio gathered at the same park bench. Liam and Eleanor shared stories and games, laughing freely, while Ethan watched with a quiet smile, grateful for the simple happiness that now filled their lives. One bright Saturday morning, Eleanor wheeled herself into the park, a small box tucked in her lap. Liam ran ahead, bouncing with excitement. "Mrs. Eleanor, what's in the box?" he asked eagerly. Eleanor smiled. "A little surprise for you both." Inside were homemade cookies, neatly wrapped and decorated, along with a card she had written for Ethan and Liam. "For kindness that cannot be measured," it read. Liam's eyes sparkled as he hugged her tightly. "Thank you. These are amazing." Ethan took a deep breath, touched. "You didn't have to, Eleanor. You've already done so much for us." "I did what any grateful person would do," Eleanor said softly, her eyes shining. "You reminded me that life doesn't end with age or solitude. There's always room for new bonds, laughter, and hope." That evening, as the sun began to set, they all sat together on the bench, watching the golden light shimmer across the park. Liam rested his head on Ethan's shoulder, Eleanor's hands folded comfortably in her lap, and Ethan felt a peace he hadn't known in years. "You know," Eleanor said quietly, "sometimes one small act of kindness can change everything." Ethan nodded, squeezing her hand gently. "You're right. You've changed my life too, Eleanor. And I promise we'll always be here for you." The leaves rustled in the gentle breeze, carrying with them the sounds of children playing, birds singing, and the distant hum of the city. In that little park, on a quiet street, 3 lives had intertwined in a way that proved hope, love, and compassion could bridge generations, hardships, and loneliness. For Eleanor, Ethan, and Liam, life was no longer a solitary journey. It had become a story of connection, laughter, and shared moments that would be treasured forever. And as they watched the sky turn shades of pink and gold, they knew that birthdays, big or small, were no longer measured by gifts or grandeur, but by the love, presence, and kindness shared with those who truly cared. The world outside may be vast and sometimes cruel, but in that park, on that day, warmth, friendship, and human kindness had created a home for hearts long yearning for connection.